Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to a Celtic World, the Tactical Review. My name is Anthony Maguire. As always, I'm joined by Paul Massey as we discuss the Scottish Cup final. Celtic 3, Dunfermline 1. We made it a double, Paul. Can you believe it? I'm like, part of me is like, there's nothing that Martinoneill can't do. And then there's part of me, it's like, this is the same team. Literally, I went back today and had a look at Kairat Almaty, and it's literally the same team that got drubbed out the Champions League by Kairat Almaty. Well, at the start of the season. So I mean, miracle worker, miraculous, spectacular, whatever adjective, pick whatever adjective you want. We are double winners. Quite incredible. What are you thinking? What are your thoughts?
Well, I think come last weekend, I fully expected the double. That's we've done the hard bit. But yeah, obviously we do this every week, and we have done over the course of the season. And whilst I was never one of the doomsayers that said it was all over, it was all done, blah blah blah, which there were plenty around, and with reasonably just cause. For weeks and weeks, I've been saying hope over expectation. Well, finally, this was a week of expectation because we got the job done in the league. Absolutely miraculous. And yeah, this was the icing. Well, the icing on the cake and the cherry on top. Probably the most comfortable game we've had in months. The season.
Yeah. Oh,
I'm not sure. Yeah.
I was comfortable going in. I was just relaxed.
Comfortable going in, but comfortable during the match as well. Like I can't remember a match, certainly since the turn of the year, that's been kind of that hasn't been a nightmare and difficult to sit through. Obviously some fantastic moments as we talked about, but yeah, no, he's done a phenomenal job. 9 wins on the spin in both competitions to get us the double. Players coming back from injury, players coming back from injury and straight into form, and players hitting form that looked done and dusted. Hence the samurai blue. I think end of an era. That cup final is probably the end of era for that sort of spell of 4 or 5 Japanese players that made a massive difference to the club over the last sort of half decade. I think both Daizen Maeda and Rei Otaki will probably move on this summer. And so it'll be sad to see those guys go and that end of that era. But what a time we've had with those players. And I would say when Kyogo left, we thought he was going to be, that was the story. He was the best of the bunch, but Daizen Maeda's just taken it on to a completely other level. Last season was phenomenal. Obviously, it was always going to be difficult to maintain that level of performance because he was punching way above his weight as a striker, scoring all those goals last year. And I think there was a bit of disappointment because I think he probably did want to go at the end of last season, and for one reason or another, we had to keep him. That's a whole other story in terms of our terrible recruitment. And he's, people said he wasn't trying, he didn't want to be there. I don't believe any of that. I just think he probably struggled for form on the back of the amount of effort last season put in, and you can't just kind of keep up that level of performance. And I think there's a lot of I'm going to say crap directed at Daizen Maeda for a good chunk of this season, but by fans that weren't willing to accept that just because he wasn't scoring or assisting 15 games in the end, I think, without a goal or an assist, which is pretty incredible. He was still contributing. He was still leading the press. He was still running defenders down. Yes, it was frustrating and disappointing that he wasn't getting those goals and assists, but I didn't believe for a second he wasn't trying. And he's proved every single doubter wrong and then some with that run in 9 goals in 7 matches. Some of them are they will live long in the memory past you and I's time on this earth, and there'll be clips that we show forever, particularly that overhead kick in the derby, and yeah, just not a surprise that he was front and center again. And yeah, we will absolutely miss him. But what a phenomenal way to end an absolutely ridiculous season, and we should all be delighted that it's kind of turned out how it has. Lots of people to thank for it, but probably none bigger than Martinoneill.
Well said, Paul. Yeah, Dyson definitely capped off his wonderful end of the season with a fantastic performance in the Cup at Hampden, and we will get into the game very shortly. We're going to wrap up the Cup final. We'll try and wrap it up a little bit quicker than we usually wrap up a match, because we do want to present our Player of the Year awards. Unlike the league and the Scottish Writers Association, we actually wait until the end of the season to dole out our awards. So they're actually given to the most deserving of player, not to managers who've won hee-haw. But anyway, I'm just going to bring up some comments before we get into that. My dad's cracking dad jokes in the comments. What do you call a Rangers player with a bottle of champagne? A waiter. Yeah, well done, Dad. That's an oldie and a goodie. Gentlemen, hail to you, sir. We've got Henrik McLarson. Afternoon, folks. What a time to be a Celtic fan. It's always a great time to be a Celtic fan, but I must admit, it's been particularly sweet this past week. That I made the comment on Axon the other night that it's been the biggest meltdown since Chernobyl, and I stand by that comment, because they've been at it nonstop for 10 days to try and suck the life out of us. And now that Lawrence Shankland is about to sign for Rangers, the Diets are now attacking the full-fat Huns. So they are now at each other's throats again. So balance has been restored to the force, as it were. 420 somewhere saying that good afternoon. Oh, hail. And then what else we got? Withdrawal symptoms. There's a World Cup to come. Yep, that is true. I don't know about supporting Scotland. Oh, also I'll be shouting on Scotland, but I'm performance-wise, Steve Clark can always leave you a wee bit underwhelmed, which is a word that Gavin hates on this podcast. But I'm gonna throw it out there. I might be watching more of the Japan games, to be honest, Paul. I nearly wore my Japan top on Axon the other night, and I realised it's literally Dunfermline colours. It's black and white. So I thought, crap, I better not wear that. Or people were thinking I've jump ship for the night. Plenty of people saying hello and hail in the comments. Keep them coming. So at the end of the podcast tonight, guys, we will be doing our best defensive player of the season. We'll be doing our best midfielder of the season. We'll be doing our best attacking player of the season. And we'll also be doing the most improved player in the squad this season. Paul and I have not rehearsed this. I do not know who he has picked. He does not know who I have picked. I've got a feeling there might be a consensus, but who knows? You need to stay and watch the whole podcast to find out. And if you've got your thoughts on who you think your best defender, midfielder, attacker, and most improved, get them in the comments, and we'll sort of bring those up towards the end of the pod. But before we do that, we're obviously going to cover the game, because this is what this podcast is all about. This is the show that you've been watching all year, and we're not going to completely rip up our formula for the last game of the season. So, Paul, you fell asleep on the couch and watched it as a semi-live. You didn't know the result, but watched it early in the morning, which is fair play. I did Axon live coverage, so I was sort of glued to my screen, and then sort of like was that comfortable. I was sort of taking my eye off it, and then I realized I was actually doing live coverage, so I had to sort of be a bit more switched on, and it was, I'm just remarkably comfortable. I think all the emotional energy I felt as a supporter was sort of tied up last week. The fact that we won the league almost felt like achieving the impossible. Obviously, it wasn't impossible. It was obviously very possible in the end. But for me, the sort of cup final was always like, it'll take care of itself. And I guess the mood music in the media, no one really built up the cup final. Like, there's a whole narrative there. You've got Neil Lennon versus Martinoneill, the master and the apprentice, to throw another Star Wars reference in there. And it didn't really rate a mention, because they're too busy worried about PFRs and re-refereeing decisions that have been made like nearly 2 weeks before, and just really quite sad, really. But that's the Scottish media, and jump on the bandwagon, appeasing some mouth breathers in the audience. But I'll bring up the team lines and talk us through. There's only one change. James Forrest came back in. James Forrest, our most what's the word?
Decorated player of all time.
That's the most decorated player in Scottish football history, I think.
And Celtic's history as well. Yeah, taking 28 trophies. Cal McGregor going into second place, going past Bobby Lennox on 26. But yeah, I'll be honest. I thought we'd go the same side as last week. So I thought Forrest would start on the bench, but he got the nod. Meant pushing Yang to the left wing, where we know he's not as effective, and he wasn't. But yeah, obviously a strong side, tons of confidence and momentum, all the rest of it after the last sort of few weeks. And yeah, no real surprises at all, to be honest. There was a clamour, obviously, probably more from a sentimental point of view that to get Hatate either in the starting lineup or at least on the bench. As much as I would have liked to see that, to give him a bit of a send off. After what happened last week, I kind of expected that wasn't going to be the case. Obviously, he lost his place to Osmond, which obviously it was more than vindicated. But yeah, so no real surprises on the across the squad, particularly, and yeah, one sort of slight change on the wing. But yeah, obviously felt that there would be more than enough to get the job done, and that pretty much proved to be the case. And I think we should have been further ahead at halftime. It was such a one-sided first half in a cup final. Mind you, obviously it's Celtic this season, so even a one-sided first half leaves the door slightly ajar in the second half. And if they'd been a bit sharper around the box, they potentially could have put some more pressure on us and a bit more trouble. But they were so passive first half, and yeah, we really should have had the job done at halftime. But we did play well first half, barring the odd small mistake that nearly cost us. But yeah,
well,
we'll get into that.
I'll bring out the images now, Paul, and then you can talk us through it. That was the first real major talking point. It was on about 8 or 9 minutes.
Yeah, 9th minute.
So bit of a miscommunication between Alistair Johnson and Sinisalo. You can talk us through it. I'll bring up some images.
Yeah, so it's just a straightforward ball in behind, and yeah, Johnson's in full control of the situation here. I've heard varying bits of commentary blaming both players kind of equally. It's like on the show we'll always say there's more than one. If you lose a goal or a bad chance, there's always more than one person at fault, and there is again here. But I think the majority of the blame here has got to lie with Alistair Johnson. In that first image you showed us, he's a long way from the box, and there's plenty of space back to Sinisalo. He should just get that ball and roll it straight back, and then Sinisalo's got time to get his head up. There's nobody aggressively pressing him. He can either do the safety first thing and just knock it up the pitch, or he can take a touch and try and find a defender, or play one over the top. I don't know why Johnson is allowing that, but I think he's trying to shepherd it back to the keeper, but there's obviously not good enough comms. It's still early in the game that it would have been loud. Obviously, fans bang up for it. It's just a bit of a daft decision, to be honest. And fair play to the Dunfermline player. He doesn't sort of hang around, and he continues to put pressure on. And he nicks one in, and I just think it's a bit sloppy all around. But fair play. Liam Scales, you can see him there. He's ahead of the play. He does a brilliant piece of defending. He doesn't assume that it's going to just be tidied up here. He tracks back, and then he makes a brilliant, brilliant last gasp sort of so basically a sclaff off the line. But if he doesn't get anything on it, it's going in. Like, it's literally on the line when he gets his foot over and behind it. So yeah, a bit of a shambles by Johnson. But Scales does a fantastic job, and to be fair, he had a very good game. I think he gave the ball away cheaply once in the second half, or maybe it was the first half. Probably first half, actually.
There's one
poor pass that he tried to play it. He tried to play it down the line, and he got intercepted. But him and Trusty basically snuffed. There wasn't much threat, but they snuffed out pretty much everything that came their way, particularly in the first half.
I just think that with AJ, the ball did sort of bounce a bit. So I don't think he got a great first touch on it, and it was just kind of bobbling. So in that situation, I can understand why he was almost like trying to get it under control, and he's wouldn't. It's like, you're perfectly okay to put your right foot through it and just stick it out for throwing. Like, you know what I mean? Yep. If it's in that situation, I just feel like the safety first option would have been, hindsight's a wonderful thing, but I just think when the ball's sitting up like that with an attacker right behind you, like there's nothing wrong with putting out for a throw in that scenario if it's not sitting for you. And then sort of Sinisalo's kind of closing the space, and then you've not got really anywhere to go after that. But yeah, fair play to Liam Stiles. He read the situation really, really well. And yeah, like I said, I agree. Didn't really put a foot wrong all day. So that was like the first sort of, that was probably Dunfermline's best chance for probably the first 50 odd minutes of the match. Really, I mean, if that had gone in, that would have, kind of not summed up our season, but sort of just shown like what we're capable of. But thankfully it didn't. And then next minute, Alistair Johnston makes amends with plenty of time on the ball, and pops it over the top, and Daizen Maeda scores probably one of the best goals of his Celtic career. It's just eloquent. The hallmarks of a Maeda goal: running through, beating the defender in a pace battle. Excellent first touch, and then dare I say, it's been compared to the great king himself, Henrik Larsson-esque. Brilliant. I mean, it just really just set the tone, and people said that the difference between Celtic and Dunfermline was the quality. I think there's other reasons as well, but I definitely think when our chances came a begging, we absolutely took them, and Maeda definitely took this one. I'll bring up the images now, Paul, and you can give me your thoughts on that one.
Absolutely. Obviously, there's a quality gap for sure. You look at the players, the wages, and all the rest of it, fees. But I just think Neil Lennon got his tactics wrong first half. They didn't press us aggressively enough. They didn't try and flood the midfield. We had the freedom of the pitch. You take it back to that first. If you take it back to that first, still. So Johnson's already in this still. Johnson's already hitting it, but you can see in the middle of that shot, or just to the left of the middle of that shot, Arne Engels has got he's waving his arms, right? He's just popped that ball off to Alistair Johnston, just had it into his feet, and it's just a simple square pass. But look how much space it's opened up. And as soon as that, he's on his bike, but he's as soon as he's knocked it off, he's seen how things are starting to play out in front of him. And to be fair, we tried to get Maeda in behind a few times earlier. And this is, I think, the 19th minute or something like that. I think we tried to sort of play a quick ball over the top a couple of times earlier. Not quite made it. But Arnold's he's waving it forward, so he's spotted that early on. And to be fair, Ali Johnson gets his head up. He has one look and he goes, "Yep, that's the ball." And this is what we've been missing from defence for a lot of the season, while players have been injured. The centre backs haven't been so keen to knock a ball over the top. Liam Scales has done it a bit of late, but generally we haven't done this too much. It's a great ball, but to be fair, the defender has a bit of a nightmare. I think it's Todd here at the back, young lad, and he, it's a great ball and it's a great run, but it's just he just gets himself all out of shape, and obviously he misses the interception, and after that he's in real trouble. The keeper's caught in no man's land, and yeah, this is a great comment as well. It is instinctual. It is an instinctual finish, and when Maeda is instinctual, and doesn't have to think, it usually ends up in the back of the net. It's when he's got time and he's got options he might take. He sometimes doesn't always take the best option, but here he's just in behind. He spots it. It's a great touch. It's a really, really good finish. I remember he scored one last season, and it was from a similar place, but instead of the dink, he absolutely just smashed it in the top corner. And that was another phenomenal finish, which, he's got in his locker, but it just as easily, it could have ended up in the back row of the stand. That's the Daizen Maeda kind of a dilemma, I guess, is like, or the dichotomy is these things, can go one of two ways, but it's a fantastic finish. I think I saw somebody else said it was not dissimilar to one a Kyogo chip, maybe against Hibs in the League Cup final. Was that the one they were referencing?
Yeah, I think that's what I was talking about.
Yeah. So but cracking finish. And steadies the nerves after a little wobble, and would be in the better side, and off and running.
And then we make it. I think after that I feel like we just sort of not toy with Dunfermline, but we sort of just make them work. Like we sort of get the ball, we're moving it side to side. The Dunfermline are sort of trying to work, but like they're really, really off it. And I agree, Paul. Like the first half, like they didn't give a very good account of themselves. And I think Lennon gave them the rocket at halftime, and so I said, well, we're in a cup final, like play like it. And this is the Dunfermline team that knocked out Hibs, Aberdeen, and Falkirk to get to the final. So I mean, it's not like they played minnows the whole way through. They played some decent sides there to get through. So they're definitely capable of better than that. And it just so happens the first half I think put the tie to bed really 2-0. Even if they got a goal back, I just felt that we had enough. But they really the pressing and engaging higher up the park just wasn't there. I mean, AJ had all the time in the world to play that ball in for Maeda. Kyogo in the brain there. And then this one for Arnie Engels, like I don't think he's had this much time all season. I'm not taking it away from the strike. Strike's excellent, but look at the space here. I mean, that's just asking for trouble. Keeper's unsighted, and then Arnie Engels hits it. There's a bit of dip on it, and keeper's left unsighted and doesn't really react. And next minute's in the back of the net and 2-0. And you're thinking, oh, this is easy. Where's this been all season, Paul? Like you're sort of like, you're getting the pipe and the slippers on.
You're talking about pipe and slippers. Pipe and slippers are the get the cigars out. Arne Engels was strolling around, especially that first half. He had so much time on the ball. He was dictating play, and this was the icing on the cake for him as well. I thought he had a fantastic match. I'll take this back a little bit earlier. It's not in the shot, but the thing I liked about the start of this goal was Austin Trusty's desire to win the ball back. Like the ball's played into the Dunfermline striker's feet on sort of the edge of their centre circle, and their half of the centre circle, and he just slides in and gets in front. And it's so clean. Like otherwise, coming in and sliding through the side like that, you're giving a referee an opportunity to give a free kick. He gets it so clean. I think McGregor picks it up. He shifts it to KT. KT gives it back to McGregor. And then
actually no, if James
Forrest has a little run. That's right. Yeah. So I think McGregor maybe picks it up, gives it to James Forrest. He has a little run across, lays it off to KT. KT then gives it back to Callum, and he just rolls it in his path. And I saw his post-match interview, Engels' post-match interview, and he said, he's just been encouraged to shoot more in games because he does it quite a lot in training, but for whatever reason he doesn't hit enough in the match. So as you said, there was no pressure on the ball. He had plenty of time. It's an absolutely cracking strike. Now I know there's a lot of people said, the goalie doesn't move. He's badly at fault. He's got to dive. He dives, he probably saves it. I just think he's hitting so hard and so quick. And the keeper's, he's unsighted. I think it probably does qualify as a Thunder Bastard. And he sort of laces it between two defenders. By the time it clears those two defenders, it's pretty much past the keeper. He hasn't, you kind of just see him going, oh. And it's just, it's an absolute classic hit. And it's one of those.
It's a good cup goal. It's a good cup goal.
It's one of those that makes the goalkeeper look a bit foolish. But I don't think many keepers are stopping that. To be honest, in the same, if it comes through that same angle and the same trajectory with the same starting position for the keeper, I don't think many keepers are saving that just because how quickly it's hit. But it's come from a long way, and it does make him look a bit daft. But great hit.
Excellent. So we're 2-0 at halftime. We know the mood music was that Neil Lennon had told 3 players to warm up just before halftime, so we knew they were going to make a triple substitution at halftime to obviously try and come back into the match. So they brought on Chris Kane, who looks more like a Greco-Roman wrestler than a footballer. Zach Rudden, who's also a big baldy lad, so they just went a bit more sort of route one and a bit more physical up top. Because Neil Lennon sort of said he went a bit more athletic in the first half, and obviously that didn't help them or didn't work for them. So the first sort of real impact of that I felt in the second half was Chris Kane pulling Austin Trusty down by the arm, and then somehow Austin Trusty getting booked for a yellow card for a challenge on him. I'm
Classic.
Like, he's literally got his arm, like he's pinned him, like it's something that Hulk Hogan would be proud of. I was just like going, oh, here we go. Like this is going to be a wee bit of a wrestling match, as it were, for probably about 15, 20 minutes, I'd say. Sort of just Dunfermline had their wee huff and puff. Can you think of anything of note that came out of that, Paul? I think they really need a goal. I mean, they did put a lot of effort into that. I would give fair dues where it's due. They put a lot into that first 15, 20 minutes, but they didn't get a goal, and then we got the park and store. But
on Rudden and Kane, I saw friend of the show, Hamish Carton, describe them as the Mitchell brothers, which I thought was a pretty old school throwback. And he was chatting to one of, I felt like another Australian. He was chatting to an Australian. He went, "This will mean nothing to you, but hopefully the audience will get it," which I thought that was a nice reference. But yeah, they were obviously so alike that the commentators kept getting muddled up in terms of who.
I thought I got muddled up watching
which one was around. But yeah, no, like they made a difference in terms of that physicality and two up front. You know, did sort of push us back. We couldn't really hang on to the ball. They had one really good chance right at the beginning, like I think the 46th or 47th minute, like the ball threw the ball into the box and, you know, it sort of bounced off the guy's face or head and went out for a goal kick. But like just as easily could turn that into the net. I think was it Amadi? Is that his name? The guy, yeah. He had one broke to him on the edge of the box, a bit closer in than Engels is, and Neil Lennon was bemoaning this in the post-match and using that as an example of the difference in quality. So Engels hits a great shot and hits the target.
But you see what the difference here is, Paul? What's the difference between that and Engels' shot?
Well, Scales is much further out, and there's multiple bodies that are in blocking positions. So yeah, he's got a much harder job to hit the target, and he doesn't. He just pulls it wide. And that was probably about, until the goal, that's probably their last chance of note. And so, yeah, there was a 15, 20-minute spell where we struggled to get the ball down and pass it and get to grips with their new formation and the more physical aspect. They were throwing the ball longer and, you know, it was more sort of aerial duels and sort of physical tussles. But I never really felt like that Scales and Trusty got particularly bullied by the two of them. It just made it more of a contest. It became, like you say, more of an arm wrestle. But I thought we handled it okay. We just didn't get on the front foot. And I guess there's that element of, you know, having the 2-goal cushion. There's a bit of sort of just seeing through those moments. A bit of professionalism in that as well, as like, you know, ride out those moments. Don't concede. Because look, if we concede in that first 5 minutes or 15 minutes, 2-1, it's game. It absolutely is game on. And so again, Lenny said that in his post-match. Like if we'd been able to get one, then even if at 3-1, they'd pushed on. It was like the 80th minute when they got the what became a consolation. If they could have gone and scored another, then you put us under pressure. But they never really threatened again after that. And yeah, just as sort of they hoped they might get something out of the sort of pressure and chaos they caused. We obviously, first we nearly scored the third. I don't know if we're going to touch on that.
No, I don't have any images of it, Paul. But that was actually it was a really good move, and Yang unfortunately just goes a wee bit too early. But then actually, I was watching Premier Sports coverage live, and then I watched the highlights back today, and it was the BBC coverage, and they were actually saying that Yang should just have left it for Iheanacho because he was in a onside position, but
he was. But
I don't know if Iheanacho had the legs to run.
He wouldn't have had, because he had another one not between that and his goal. He had one there even further out. He had tried to try and run it in, and he just got chased down really quickly. But it was it was a nice move. It's like it started at left back, and they sort of played it through.
Well, Liam stayed a wee dummy.
That's right, the little dummy on the left back position, and then started the move, and we flowed it pretty quickly from there. It's a good ball through. Yang has got, honestly, when I first saw the still, the first angle wasn't directly in line, and I thought that is really, I thought it was tight
off myself.
Yeah, I thought it was tight, but he was probably just off. But I thought it was definitely a discussion to be had there. And then once you saw the more straight across angle, it was pretty clear that he was probably half a yard off. But nice move, good finish. And what was that, 63 minutes, I think? So 10 minutes before the actual third, bit of a preamble. And for the second time in the match, Austin Trusty's the starting point of the goal move. Sinisalo gets it out to him, but then he threads a really nice ball down the line, which we haven't seen Austin Trusty play forward passes all that much this year. That's one of the reasons he's been sort of left on the ball by other teams. But he slips a great ball down the side, and Nygren appears from his slumber and goes on a great jinking run and slides in Iheanacho.
This is the one image of the goal we've got, Paul. Gavin's not given us much to work with.
He's let us down a bit here. So Nygren goes on a slalom and run. He sort of slides past one, but he slides Iheanacho in the inside right channel. He goes towards the skipper and then sort of leaves him on his backside. He should have a penalty, like his hands outstretched, and he stops the ball. But he doesn't stop for that. He's obviously got used to Scottish referees already. He digs the ball out of the hand. Then he's got another guy sort of lunges at him. He manages to sort of jink past him. The goalie's scrambling around. He pauses and nudges it past him. And then, as you can see here, he's just got the composure to slot it into an empty net. It's a really, really good goal. This guy, a bit like Maeda, if Maeda was the finished article all the time, he'd be worth the 100 million. He would never have been playing for Celtic. This guy, if he was fit, if he could string more than 30 minutes together, then he'd still be playing in the Premier League in England, I imagine, or some other top division somewhere.
Only what? He's younger than Lawrence Shankland. He's only 28.
He's 29. He'll be 30 soon. But yeah, you're right. He is younger than Shankland. But for whatever reason, we've had him all season. He's had a couple of niggling injuries. Who knows? Maybe a pre-season he might get 60 minutes out of him next season. But I would 100% be re-signing. I think, or maybe we've got a year's extension option. I'd be signing Iheanacho. I think I'd be signing him as a third choice, sort of break glass in an emergency kind of striker. I think Osman's deserving. If he stays fit, Osman's deserving of the second spot. We've got to go out and spend proper 8, 9, 10, 12 million on a decent quality striker that will get you 25, 30 goals a season. But I think there's a place for big kills around the club. He's got the right attitude, which clearly is important. He's got an infectious kind of positivity as well, and he knows where the goals are, and he'll get you a goal if you really need it. So I don't know what anyone else thinks, but I certainly think he's a player that's worth keeping around the squad, particularly when we're going to have a huge amount of turnover this season. So I think that's one less sort of spot that you don't have to worry about if you keep him on.
Well, I think when you're only playing one up front, and obviously we don't know who the manager's going to be next season, and obviously there's a discussion to be had around that, which is almost a separate podcast in itself. But whether it's Martinoneill and he decides to go on another season, or whether we bring in, another manager, Robbie Keane, Craig Bellamy, take your pick, who else we've been linked with. Obviously, Astor's off to Toulouse, so he's out of the picture. If he was ever even in the picture, but anyway, that's one less name off the bookies list. But Celtic generally play with one centre forward, so realistically, you need 3 centre forwards. You need your absolute stick-on starter centre forward, which we haven't had since
Kyogo left 18 months.
Right? So you need to spend the big bucks. You need to spend your 10, 11 million and go for an absolute out-and-out striker. You then have Callum Osmond as your backup. I think he has earned that right and that role. And I think the glimpses that he's shown this season, he's got the mobility and the tenacity that you need as a second striker, or as a striker coming off the bench with 20 minutes to go or 25 minutes to go. And then I agree. If you carry someone like Kelechi Iheanacho in your squad as a tertiary striker, he's not going to play every week. But what he is useful for is a rotation when either of your other 2 strikers are unavailable, or you want to rest them, or you want another attacking option, maybe to go 2 up front against weaker teams. Another pre-season into him, you'd assume he's going to get at least a little bit fitter. I'm not expecting miracles. But the guy came in at the end of the preseason. He missed the preseason. He was training by himself. I mean, you can train as much as you like by yourself, but there's no substitute for actually being involved in the team and doing it all. I think he's got the right attitude. I think he offers you something different. And I just think that predominantly with a Celtic squad, it always tends to be on the younger side. It always tends to be guys sort of 21 to 24, like that tends to be the nucleus of your squad. Obviously, we've got a few lads now stewing it the other way, but it doesn't hurt to have some seasoned pros. Your the baldy lad, Aaron Moyes, and lads like that in your team who've been there and done it, and are calm and can hit a penalty in the 97th minute of a league match to, take it to the last game of the season. Like, you need guys like that in and around your team. So yeah, that's my take, and I think we're on a unity ticket on that one. Paul, we've done really well. We've gotten through the game in 35 minutes, which is a record for us.
I want one last comment on the game. I'm going to be I'm going to bring a bit of a moan to the days, the celebration, in that I don't think the Dunfermline goal should stand. I think VAR should pick up a foul on Kieran Tierney in the build-up. The guy that fouls him has the shot that is then blocked into the path of the scorer. Chopped off for me, but no surprise it was given.
We'll let VAR off this one, Paul?
Nah. Like, another proof.
Play as you mean to go on.
If proof were needed, that VAR doesn't always favour Celtic. Anyway, like, good call. We'll call it there. But we weren't particularly troubled, and I was a bit disappointed to lose a goal, particularly in those circumstances.
There were two images that I liked from the managers. One of Neil Lennon sitting on a stool or like an ice bucket, or whatever it was.
The Lucasade esky, as we say in Australia.
I went, there's a thousand memes have bloomed as a result of that one. So well done, Neil. And then there's a nice, lovely shot of Neil grabbing Martinoneill's hand and holding it up after the match. Martin, not one for personal sort of praise and things like that, but I thought that was a nice wee moment. Another double done and dusted. And I say this every time Celtic wins a trophy: never ever take it for granted. It's just as important whether it's the 122nd trophy, that we've won, or whether it was the 105th or whatever. It doesn't matter. Like, they're all important, and you never stop celebrating them, because you never know what's around the corner. I said that when Big Ange, just before he departed to Tottenham, and then you just never know. So you've just got to enjoy it when it comes around.
It's an absolutely perfectly fair sentiment. And for long chunks of this season, I think we all feared there was no trophies this year. So 100%. You celebrate them. I think, if anything, these ones are probably as sweet as most or any down the years. I think I said the other week that aside from maybe the centenary double as a little kid, in my first sort of earliest memories of getting to games and being involved in understanding it all, this is up there with as sweet as it gets. And season as well. But yeah, we're lucky. We've had loads of good ones, but I'm sure at some point in history there'll be a time when we don't have as many as we have now. We are living through arguably one of the most successful periods in our history for overall trophies. So we should all enjoy it. We do man of the match.
Oh yes, just before you say that, I had to look back just to see if there's any other club that had won a Premiership, having changed managers 3 times in one season, and the only thing I could come up with was Chelsea winning the Champions League with Villas-Boas, Di Matteo, and then Frank Lampard in one season. That was it.
It's still only 3 managers. Technically, we've had 4 stints.
Well, I know. So yeah, I 3 just for what but that just shows you how unprecedented and to win a double. But yeah, just a little. All good. Man of the match. Paul, man of the match. Quick one.
For me, there were really 2 candidates. Probably honourable mention to Liam Scales as a third shout. I thought he was excellent, although he wasn't particularly tested that much. But everything he did well. Simon Donnelly on Celtic TV gave it to Daisa Maeda, which it's been a fair shout for most of the last few games. But I agree with the match sponsors. Arne Engels was my man of the match. I thought he was phenomenal, particularly first half. Absolutely bossed it. And yeah, he put the tin lid in it with a brilliant goal. But he has been one of the key difference makers in this run-in. Him coming back Alice Johnson coming back, and Maeda hitting form. Those three, plus obviously the man management of Martin O'Neill, have been massive. And I think anyone that doubted Engels earlier in the season surely can't suggest that he isn't an asset and a valuable player to this team, because he helped turn the tide, and that midfield was nowhere until he came back in. But yeah, Arne Engels, man of the match. And look, I think he will probably go because it's been a tough couple of years for him, even though I think he's an improving player. He's only 22 years old. I think he'll go because we'll get a fat fee for him. But I think he would really push on to another level if we can keep him for another year and start to give him some quality around him in a more balanced.
If we actually play him in his position as well, that helps as well. Like he's better in a deeper line sort of position.
Mm-hmm.
He's better with the game in front of him, as in being
100%.
sort of higher up, and then his passing range and everything's more limited with the space and the fact that he's playing up against crowded, packed defenses. But anyway, that is a story for next season if he's still here. I'll agree. Arne Engels, but yes, I can totally understand Maeda. That first goal blows the final open. But I guess the lid's on it with Engels' strike. Okay. So far, one person has put in their comments who their best or their pick for player of the season for defender, midfielder, attacker, and most improved. So if you have any thoughts on that subject, get them in there. There's 4 or 5 guys active in the comments at the moment that I can see. So fire them in there. Let me see who you're picking. We're going to get into. We'll start with the defensive player of the season, Paul. I'll go first, and then you can either agree or disagree with me. I'm giving it to Liam Stells. I think the fact that he played pretty much nearly every game all season. I think the only time he really dropped out the team was when Wilfred Nancy was picking it, which says a lot. I think the fact that we were conceding a bucket load of goals when he wasn't playing says a lot. I think, to replace him would cost a fair chunk of money. And given that we have got a massive rebuild, for me, I just think that, he's sort of made that left centre-half position his. Is he the complete answer, if we are attacking and all this possession and play? No. Is he capable of playing that little clip ball over the top that can catch teams out? Yeah, he is. I think he was a leader at times, captained the team. And I think in defensive games, when you're playing against Rangers, Hearts in Europe, he's fearless, gets his body on the line, whether it's a block or a header, whatever it is. I think he did a really good season. And yeah, I'm a little bit surprised he didn't make the team of the year for the Premiership team of the year, but for whatever reason. All the Hearts players at the plaudits there, even though they finished second. So yeah, that's my pick for defensive player of the year. Over to you, Paul.
Well, I'm going to give a little, and not best, but I'm going to give a little shout out to a couple of young players in Colby Donovan, who really held the fort at right back for a period when we were down to the bare bones. I thought he was far from perfect. He's a young player. There was times where he was, all at sea. And I think the Hearts game is probably an example of that. But he had Dane Murray next to him, and it was a bit of a baptism of fire. But I think he grew into his delivery, into the box. I thought was excellent. His energy was good. Plenty of assists. So I thought Colby Donovan deserves a mention. Vil Silasalo, I think, turned our season around and gave that stability at the back when obviously all the problems with Schmeichel we'd had. So I will little mention for him. For me, there was only 2 to discuss it really in terms of the best player. And you make a good case for Liam Scales, and I don't really disagree with any of it. But I don't think you can look past Kieran Tierney as our defensive player of the year with the amount of goals and assists that he's contributed in a team that really lacked goals, and the amount of games that he played off the back of 5 seasons of hardly playing. And I was a major skeptic when we re-signed KT I was very fearful that we would get a player who, was completely
done.
damaged and would break down and wouldn't get, would be an expensive fringe player. And he's absolutely proved me wrong. I think we still mismanaged him at times, particularly with a player as good as Srirachi sitting on the bench. And we've talked about this a lot. And even in the cup final, when he gets clipped in the Achilles, just get him off. Like he's limping around coming back with it. Just get him off. That annoyed me as well. We only use 4 subs. You know what I'm like about use all 5 subs. Get players on the pitch.
Especially a cup final.
Yeah, get them on. Anyway, KT absolutely phenomenal. I can't remember how many goals he ended up with. Double
11?
figures, I think. 11 and 8 or 9 assists. So yeah, a phenomenal contribution. Aside from his defending, he's lost a yard or 2 of pace. He isn't as good a player as left for us to go to Arsenal in terms of the raw sort of energy and power. But I think what he's lost there, he's made up for an experience, and I think he will only get better with another full preseason under his belt. He's the captain in waiting behind McGregor. You would think. I'm sure we all expect him to finish his career at Celtic now that he's back. So yeah, phenomenal first season for Kieran Tierney and an absolute no-brainer for me for best defensive player.
There you go, split decision. See, I told you we didn't rehearse this. This is me and Paul, our own decisions. I knew he wasn't ready to pick Liam Stills, but that's okay. Just didn't. So we'll move on to the midfielder of the season. I'll let you go first this time, Paul. I know you just spoke there, but fair's fair. So I'll let you go first this time around. I'm curious to see which way you.
I still have this one. I wrote this down earlier, and as I look at it, I might be changing my mind.
Do you want me to go first? Or do you want me to sway you, or are you happy to go first?
Actually, you go first because right. I think you can sell this in either direction.
All right. I am going with Arnie Engels. The reason being is that our season did not start well under Brendan Rodgers. He had Arnie Engels on the bench predominantly in his spell as manager this season. I went back through those early games, and his midfield was Rio Hatate, Nygren, and McGregor. And clearly that combination did not work. He persisted with it. He left Engels on the bench. One of the first things that Martinoneill did when he came in was get Engels out of the team. McGregor looked 100 times better with Arnie Engels next to him, and all of a sudden we started winning football matches. Martinoneill's win rate with Engels in the team when he's not in the team, because obviously he had that period where he was injured at the turn of the year, it goes from 90% down to 62.5%, depending whether Engels is starting in the team or not. That, for me, is all the statistical analysis that you need that shows that guy is the absolute engine room of that midfield. And McGregor's performances are 8s and 9s when Engels is beside him. And without him, when he's relying on Nygren or Hatate or Oxlade-Chamberlain or Luke McCowan to do running beside him, all of a sudden McGregor drops to a 6 or a 7 because he's just been asked to do far too much. So for me, it's all the unseen stuff, the dirty stuff. Yes, could he add more goals to his game? Absolutely. He's an improving player. He's a young player. I think I could make a case for him for being the most improved player of the season as well, but I've got other candidates for that one. So for me, and I know you obviously have Benjamin Nygren, who's the player of the year for Celtic and made the team of the year for all the various different awards and things, and he scored a bucket load of goals. I would really have to question whether you can qualify him as a midfielder. An absolute luxury, pops up, scores a goal, and then is anonymous for large portions of the game. And I cannot honestly put my hand in my heart say that he deserves a midfielder of the year award, and that's what we are awarding tonight. And it's our podcast, so that's the criteria that I'm using. So as much as he's had a phenomenal season, scoring goals and assists, and the one coming off the bench, the one up at Pedodry, lives long in my memory because I was in a hotel room in New Zealand. I was doing AXOM that morning, and I remember that. And that was a fantastic just bit of individual brilliance. But for me, we won the league on the back of Arnie Engels coming back out of that team and giving us the drive and run to win all those games, those big games against the Huns, against Hearts, Falkirk, Hibs, Motherwell. So for me, the midfielder of the year is Arnie Engels.
Well, that's who I had down straight away, and I swayed on goals and assists, but you've absolutely sold it with more stats to hand than I had. So yeah, we'll carry that. Look, I don't. It's hard to look past Nygren's 21 goals and 7 or 8 assists or whatever it's been. Some screamers in there. The free kick at Hearts, the absolute thunder bastard at Motherwell, the goal up at Aberdeen, even sneaking in that one he got at Falkirk. Just it was ducking in at the back post. But yeah, I think, and this comment sums it up as well. You struggle to call him a midfielder. He does no work in midfield. He is a 10, not playing in a system that needs a 10, and he is a luxury. And Engels, for all whatever anyone wants to say his faults, I think a lot of his faults are he's not Matt O'Reilly. I think that his two biggest faults are he's not Matt O'Reilly, and he cost us 11 million.
We bought him for 11 million quid. Yeah,
that's it, right? That's it. People assumed he was a direct replacement for Matt O'Reilly. He isn't. He's not the same player by any stretch of the imagination, and he costs a lot of money. But I think whenever he goes, whether it's this season or next, he will go for at least double that, probably, and go on to have a good career wherever he ends up. I cannot believe he's not in the Belgian squad, and bloody Raskin is. That just seems incredible to me that's happened. But yeah, the energy and sort of press that he brings, like after Maeda, he's the next one in to follow the press. I think night and day between in our team and this season with and without him. So I think it's, thank you for selling the keep getting me back on the path I was on. If you want, I'll go striker first.
Okay, I just before you say that, there was a comment here about Cal McGregor, and I think there is a mention to be made here that he really did hold the team together under the Nancy debacle, and I've no doubt that he was responsible for the player power to sort of get Nancy removed as quickly as he came in. Our season would have been done with another couple of weeks of him. So, I'm not a fan of player power in the sense of like getting managers sacked, but in this case, when you get someone like Martinoneill who was willing to come back in for a second time and save our bacon, I think it was justified, and he united the team. And there was points in that run in where you could see that he was adopting a siege mentality for that team and just sort of getting everyone in. And apart from the odd comment from Luke McCown in the media, we really kept our powder dry in terms of talking out about winning the league, and we do our talking on the park. And it's the one thing that I love about Celtic and this team is that we don't big note ourselves. We don't say there's 5 cup finals and all this rubbish. We just go and knock them off game after game after game. And all of a sudden it was, we have to win 7 to we have to win 5 to we have to win 3. And then it was like beat Motherwell, beat Hearts, we win the league. And, so there's definitely something to be said there for Cal McGregor. He didn't probably have his best season in terms of being a footballer, but in terms of a leader, I think he really stepped into he really grew a gear as a captain. And I think that's, I just wanted to say that before we jump out of the strikers. And Paul, who's your striker of the season? Oh, yeah, sorry, attacking player, not necessarily striker.
So you called it best attacking player to presumably leave the door for Benjamin Nygren to be opened. I'm not going to take it. I
was just including the wingers, Paul, more than anything.
Fair enough. So I'm going to give Benjamin Nygren again. I'm going to give him a little bit of a tip of the hat because without his goals, we don't get to where we are. And look, for all his frustrations, he scored a lot of goals in the absence of a striker. That said, if we had signed up with a proper replacement for Kyogo, I'm not even sure Nygren gets as many games as he ends up getting because he's in the team for his goals. That's why he's in the team. He's a luxury player, like you say. If you've got a proper striker scoring goals, you probably don't need him. But that's an aside. Honourable mention here to Big Kells, Big Ian. Some great goals. Absolute ice in the veins.
5 goals that won his games, I think.
Yeah, I think 4 or 5 goals that took it from a draw to a win. Phenomenal contribution for a bloke who can barely run the length of himself. And yeah, as I said
earlier, there's hope for us yet, Paul, as well.
With 2 dodgy knees and however many kilos overweight, I don't think I think my boots are hung up finally.
Just as though he's got a great touch, eh?
Yeah, well, I've got a half decent touch, but I can't run the length myself either. So yeah, I think absolutely crucial. But even though even though he went 15 games without a goal or an assist, without 9 and 7 in the run-in, we win nothing. So I don't think you can look past Isa Maeda for best attacking player of the season, even if it was in a short burst when it really, but it happened when it really counted. And I think he finished on 17 goals. So even though he scored 9 there, he still did contribute 8 in the first half of the season before the that barren spell. So yeah, easy one for me, Isa Maeda.
Yeah, no, I total agreement. He won his, his goals helped in his press. Got us past St. Mirren, got the early goal there in the cup semi. And then just his work rate and endeavour, and then the goals started coming again. There was obviously a bit of a drought there, and you're starting to. I'm sure he was doubting himself at one point, but you just knew that if he just kept working hard, and that's the thing, he didn't stop working hard during all those games either. He was still putting in a shift, just wasn't getting the rewards. And then and so I say, just give it to him for the bicycle kick alone. I mean, that goal literally killed that game dead. Like that, just absolutely just. That was it. It was just like the stuffing was just absolutely knocked out of them from that moment forward. Like we're talking about comfortable games. That after that goal went in, that was a very comfortable end to that game. I felt at the time. I still do. But yeah, no, he was brilliant, and it was interesting that Maeda, obviously form and goals and everything was on the up, and then Nygren was sort of like on the way down at the same time. And I would say I would take away from Nygren, without his goals, we wouldn't be where we are. There's obviously the issue of recency bias, because obviously, we're most recent times Maeda's been excellent, but titles are won in April and May. Titles aren't won in October. It doesn't matter whether you're top of the league for 255 days or one day. It doesn't matter, as long as you're top the last day of the season when it's all done and dusted. That's what matters. And I think Isa Maeda just got in the heads of a few defenders in Scotland, and the rest is, as they say, is history. And he'll leave Celtic Park a legend when he does move on, and we assume it will happen in the summer. And I hope he does get a decent EPL team, if that's where he wants to end up and go. I hope he gets a real go at it. And he's as loved down there as he is up here. But you'll go a long time before you'll see someone like him in a Celtic shirt again. Like, I'm not saying he's one of a kind, but that's his durability and his stamina. Like, he still shuts people down, and the game's done, and he's still putting tackles in it. That's the thing. He puts a shift on up front, and then he gets shifted to the left wing for the remaining 30 minutes of the match when Ian Nacho comes on, the last 25 minutes when Ian Nacho comes on, and then he puts another shift in on the left wing, and he's tracking back. I mean, I don't know any other player in the league that could just do that amount of running, but he does it. No. And he'll do that twice a week as well. Like, he'll do it on like a champion, like a European night, and then he'll go and back it up on the weekend. And he was just doing that all the time. So, I mean, it's phenomenal. And like I said, you'll go a long time before you see another player like him come through our doors. But, and he had about 50 different hairstyles. Probably some of the most iconic goals you'll ever see. And that's why he is a unanimous attacking player of the year for 2025-2026. So, Paul, that leaves us with, obviously, we're not going to do goal of the year because obviously Dyson wins that at Cantor. I think there's an honourable mention to the goal that Yang scores against Rangers in the 3-1 defeat. I thought that was an excellent goal. So there's probably a few honourable mentions throughout the season. Cal McGregor scoring that last-minute strike against, I want to say St. Mirren. Yep, that was a great goal. Oxlade-Chamberlain scores a last-minute winner against Livingston. Fantastic goal. There's been many, many good goals, but you're not going to top a bicycle kick. I'm sorry, that it's just like, in the context of the season, that was amazing. So I mean, that does it for me, and I'm assuming you haven't any sort of things for that. So that just leaves most improved player of the season. Do you want me to go? Do you want to go? My turn.
I'm completely resolute on it, so it doesn't really
Okay,
matter
all
what you
right.
say.
Well,
I'm definitely going to
I'll
go
make some
with
honourable
mine.
mentions, and then I think we're on the same. I feel that we're on the unity ticket on this one. I could be completely wrong, but a couple of honourable mentions. I think one needs to go to Colby Donovan. I think he basically came out of the dark and had to fill in that right back position with injuries to AJ, and I think Tony Ralston was sort of a bit missing in action for a bit as well. So we were down to one right back. Obviously, we're bringing Julian Araujo in. That takes a bit of the pressure off. And then, unfortunately, he picks up a knee injury, and that was the end of Donovan's season. And I think his contributions after that were more from in the Celtic stand, because he was in the away end at the Motherwell game. He ran out of the pitch for everyone else. So fair play. And then another honourable mention, I think, to Sinisalo. I think coming out. Obviously with Oliver Kasper Schmeichel's issues, I don't really think he put too much of a foot wrong. A couple of ones, obviously, claiming for a few maybe that he probably needs to be a little bit stronger, a little bit more sure of himself. But I think, we don't win that league with an injured Kasper and goals the rest of the season. So I think, big, massive tick for him. And I think he got a selection for the Finland squad for the World Cup. So fair play to him. I think the other honourable mention for me is Callum Osmond. I just think we just didn't see enough of him. It was I was probably one of the most upset I was seeing him do his hammy in that European match. I was really upset for him. I did that game live, and that was really tough. I just really felt for him. He just broke through, and then for that to happen, and just in the context of our season, like we badly needed a striker, and then he got injured. It was like, you just kind of felt like it was all sort of stacking up against us. So I'm really looking forward to see what he can bring next season. And a real bit of a black market is Brendan Rodgers as well. The fact that he didn't give that kid a look in, because I just think he was a little bit petulant with that one personally. So that leaves my most improved player. And this was a guy who he missed out on a transfer at the start of the season. So he had a bit like Maeda, had to deal with that and put that to one side. He was literally 2 feet out the door, and then was like whisked back to Glasgow because we couldn't get our business sorted out. And he really came alive under Wilfred Nancy, actually. Like, he made that right wing back position his. He really grew a leg, and he was probably the one player that actually improved under Wilfred Nancy, if I'm being honest. And then he managed to carry that form in with Martinoneill. He played well with Martinoneill first stint, second stint, held down that right wing position at Sun Jun Yang. And I he scored some absolutely really important goals. Scored against the Huns a couple of times, scored against Hearts. You forget some of the goals that he actually scored. Like, he scored in some very, very big games for us. And I just think that there's still potential for him to get better as well. He's put on a bit of bulk this year. He's a bit stronger. Like, defensively, he's gotten better. He's definitely my most improved of the season.
100% agree. Rewarded with an extension to 2030. And I think you can't say it's not deserved. Like, is he the finished article? He isn't. Does he look out of sorts when you play him on the left? Yes, but that's not his position. But we've been so lopsided this season. We've kind of had to. But that's the thing. Wherever you play him, wing back, right wing, left wing, just that hardworking kind of mindset to just go and do the best he can. And you're absolutely right. Goals and assists, he's contributed, and he's one of the few players in this squad that actually runs at defenders and commits them and puts them under pressure. And that's where the goal against Rangers came from. He drove at that team and they didn't know what to do. They backed off him and he smashed it in the top corner. And he causes all sorts of problems when he's got that opportunity. He's only 23. He's obviously come from a junior player, a young player in the Korean League. We're always just quick to judge these players that don't immediately turn up and switch it on. At the end of the day, he's traveled halfway around the world. He probably doesn't speak great English when he arrives. He's bedding into a new country. But yeah, against the odds and out of difficult and strange circumstances, he's got his opportunity. As often becomes the case when players that are nearly out the door get an opportunity that sort of lands in their lap that wasn't expected, and you can take that and grab it, or you can let it slip through your fingers, and you will be out the door. And And the lack of depth in this year's squad has given an opportunity to Yang, and he's absolutely grabbed it. Now, do I expect him to necessarily be our first choice right winger next season? I kind of hope he isn't, unless he takes his game to another level. But he's absolutely worthy of that extension. Even in so much as if somebody wants to buy him from us now, he's going, he'll be going to the World Cup and see how he does there. But if somebody wants to buy him, they're going to have to pay us quite a few quid.
Well, more than what Birmingham was probably going to pay for him.
Yeah, more than what Birmingham would paid for him. So yeah, I don't think it's really up for debate. Your other mentions I completely agree with, but yeah, I absolutely agree that Yang's the most improved player in that squad this season.
Well, we were on a unity ticket except for Stills and KT. And I'm really perfectly honest, I kind of forgot a little bit about KT.
I was going to say, come on.
I was thinking defensive, and then but yeah, in fairness, KT actually did have a really good season. I felt like he was building up. Like I kind of felt the first sort of 5-10 games was just like slowly but surely you were starting to see the guy come back, and you just see in the back of his mind he was just a little bit hesitant just to push it. And then I think just came a time where he's like, I need to trust myself and go. And then from that moment on, it was there was some moments there where he was like the KT of old. And he just needs to play against Rangers every week. When he plays against Rangers, he starts pushing harder and getting further forward. And yeah, and I think as well, the other thing that's probably I feel has hampered KT a little bit this season is just the fact that he's had a revolving door at left wing in front of him. Nobody's really nailed that left wing position down. We've obviously chopped and changed with Maeda, Tanekti, Yang playing over there. We had James Forrest playing over there at one point. So we really need to sort that out. And obviously with the news that Jota's not going to be back anytime soon, I think we're in the market for a left and right winger. We really are. I think we need to be.
I think you're one striker at least, and one winger at least on each side. You're probably going to be, depending on what happens, you're probably going to be looking for at least a couple of midfielders. Bernard will be gone. There's a good chance Engels will be gone. I wouldn't be surprised if Nygren goes. So you're probably looking for 3 or 4 midfielders. We still need to strengthen at the back, centre back. Potentially cover. If I'd be wanting to nail down Sorachi, but it sounds like from reports today, it sounds like the board still have dragged their feet and aren't willing to meet Boca's asking price, which I understand to be 2.5 million quid. Like, if you can't find 2.5 million quid for a player as good as Sorachi, KT's had an amazing season, as I said, but he's only like one new injury away from us being in real trouble. So yeah, the biggest issues with this squad aren't the players or the manager, whoever's the manager. It's the board behind them that are organising deals and trying to get players through the door. But as you said earlier, that's a whole other pod. And I imagine some of this stuff we might touch on. I might touch on the stuff with Gav on Thursday. I don't know what he's lined up for that show, but I'm sure we'll touch on NLB look forward, because that will be the last show of the season, and we will be taking a little sabbatical after that. I'm not sure quite how long, but we will be.
Yes, this, for no doubt whatsoever, this is the last tactical review for the season. We will be having a wee bit of a summer holiday or winter holidays as it is over here in Western Australia. But we will be back next season. I haven't spoken to Paul about this, but I'm sure we will be back again, doing it all over again.
I don't think we're going to be doing a Lawrence Shankland and jumping ship right at the end of the season and going somewhere else. So no, I think Gav's safe. We will. I've not seen a contract extension put in front of us yet, but
haven't seen a contract.
I'm sure the terms will be absolutely the same as this year. So yeah, I'm sure. Yeah. I'm sure we'll be back.
I think the promise is if we ever visit Gav in his hometown, he would buy us a pint. But there's a lot of things to make that happen. Well, as you all know, I'll just do my quick little thing. Please like and subscribe to the episode. It does help other like-minded Celts find us, even though this is the last podcast for the season. We usually end the show, and we will be ending the show with our recommendations. But I just wanted, before I do, I just do want to say thank you to everyone in the comments section all season. It's been a tough season. It's been hard. There's been ups and downs. There's been plenty to talk about. I really want to commend everybody for being quite civil in the comment section. You know, I see other teams' supporters jump down each other's throats and being very, very toxic. And I have to say that this community's been great and been done in a really, really good spirit. So I really want to thank you, everyone, for just showing the Celtic family, Celtic community that we are, we're a club like no other, and we're a support like no other. Paul, last recommendation for the season, mate. What you got for us?
This is the last recommendation for the season. I've got two things for you. I have got an album I've been meaning to chuck in as a recommendation for a few weeks or probably a couple, 2 or 3 months, but I just haven't. And I'm glad I haven't, because it now seems perfect that this is the one that I'm doing on the back of what happened on the weekend. So it's the 6th album from a band called Big Thief, American sort of indie rock folk bands, and their 6th album came out at the back end of last year, and it's called Double Infinity. So yeah, very timely. Very timely. But Double Infinity is the name of the album by Big Thief. So yeah, check it out. And just a little reminder that I'm going to be building, or I've started building, the Tactical View in Celtic Worlds playlist, which is one track from every album that I've recommended over the last couple of seasons. That playlist is halfway done. Last season's finished. I just need to rattle through how many weeks of probably 30, 35 albums for this season.
You've got until Thursday to get it done, Paul. I'm setting you a target.
I'll manage that. I'll find some time between now and Thursday. So yeah, I'm halfway done. And we will chuck it, I guess. We'll definitely put it on socials in terms of the link. It'll be on Spotify. If you use another streaming system, I'm sorry, that's what I use. So it'll be on Spotify, and we'll probably put it in the last show notes. I'll get Gav to do that. But yeah, second TV. Just finished the Kylie Minogue doco series, and absolutely brilliant. Like if you like a doco as we call it, and go very Australianized. Obviously a bit of a legend. Just a reminder of that whole story and the journey and the press and all that stuff she went through, the Hutchins relationship and stuff like that. But also sort of got me in the feels a little bit, because obviously she went through the breast cancer stuff, as did my wife. So it touches on all of that, and just comes across as a super nice person. And it's if you like you like your sort of musical documentaries, even though pop's not really my main thing. It's 3 eps on Netflix, worth a look.
No, she is definitely an Australian legend. I finally got to see Mortal Kombat 2 yesterday, and I thought it was great. It was just like a dumb action movie. I watched the first one a couple of years ago. So it's a sequel to the new one. Josh Lawson, Aussie actor, he plays Kano, so he's just rocking around with the Aussie accent. Got another Aussie actress playing Sonya Blade, so she's doing an American accent, but her Australian accent sort of creeps in. And then Carl Urban's playing Johnny Cage, so he's kind of like the narrator, so he's explaining, like, going, what the hell's going on. So he's sort of like the conduit for people who don't really understand the concept. Not as much of a concept. He's the audience, basically. So it was really, really well done, and the fight scenes are pretty good. And it's just dumb fun, but in the best way. So still the movies, but yeah, worth a watch if you're into that sort of stuff. And if you haven't seen the first one's great as well. The humor in that's is pretty good. So yes, I'll end on a wee high with that one. So that was good. Well, Paul, we covered the show. We reviewed our players of the season. We won a double. We did this pretty much every week. I think I missed a week in Japan. I think you missed 1 week for a concert in Melbourne. I think we did a pretty good shift this season. We're at a World Cup to look forward to. Scotland's playing, Japan's playing, Australia's playing. Take a pick. We're plenty of teams to shout on. Maybe Sweden if you want to shout on Benjamin Nygren. So yeah, like to look forward to. and we'll see what Celtic and the board do in the next 8 weeks before the season starts again. But I'm not even going to go there.
Take a week or two off that, and
I'm not even gonna go there. So again, thank you for everyone all season in the comments. Views have been good. Great to get as many of you involved. And we'll be back next season, and we'll do it all over again. And Paul, all that's left to say is hail, hail.
Hail, hail, folks.